I want to start with two rabbis today. Not two rabbis going to a bar. Oh, there's probably some good jokes like that. But two rabbis, one, Jonathan Sacks, the chief rabbi of Great Britain, who challenged his people this week at Rosh Hashanah that they might reflect on the past year. He said, how we used one of God's greatest gifts, time. Did we use it to the purpose, for a purpose, or did we merely exist? Did we use it for ourselves or for higher ends? Did we bring blessing into a life other than our own? And Chaim Stern, the rabbi, said once more, Atonement Day has come. All pretense gone. Naked heart revealed to the hiding self, we stand on holy ground between the day that was and the one that must be. We tremble at what did we aim? How did we stumble? What did we take? What did we give? To what are we blind? Last year's confession comes easily to the lips, he said. Will this year's come from deeper than the skin? Say then, why are our paths strewn with promises like fallen leaves? Say then, when shall our list be for wisdom? Say no, love and truth shall meet. Justice and peace shall embrace. These words come at the beginning of the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which began this week. The Jews know how to start the new year. They don't start with champagne and empty midnight kisses, but with atonement and forgiveness and hope. This week, our Jewish brothers and sisters had a new start, and for us, we do the same here today in honor of that tradition. A new start, a new chance, a yearly ritual of asking and giving, asking for and giving forgiveness, which is so lacking in our lives. Today we honor this tradition. And every year, for many, I have been engaging this ritual of beginning the new year with forgiveness. And I have always asked, is forgiveness reasonable? And is it even possible? Atonement, as you know, maybe, and forgiveness are not the same. At-one-ment, though, begins in the human world with forgiveness, something I want to talk to you about today. I asked for forgiveness twice this week, once to a parishioner and once to my 10-year-old son. My son's response was, "Oh, I forgot about that." Timing is everything, he said. What's amazing as I went through this week, what's amazing is how easily slights and differences of opinion can lead to the need for forgiveness. And I'm not talking about huge life events. I'm talking about making someone mad in your home for not taking out the garbage, or getting upset with your child for doing something stupid, or saying something to a friend or colleague that sets off a chain reaction, or being on the other end of those bumps in life. Think about all the slights and disappointments done to you in your life, large and small. If we're honest, that can range from the most serious of transgressions like rape or worse, to momentary violence, to angry curses, to being left at the supermarket by your mother. I'm still holding on to that one. To being cheated out of your business or marriage, to being yelled at by a teacher. Transgressions great and small. I think if you made that list, you started as early as you could remember, your list would fill a pew. Mine would. I'm sure of it. But now consider the list made by others that have your name on it. Hundreds, maybe thousands of citations. Your angry outbursts, your curses, your breaking another's heart, your taking what was not yours. With all the people you have ever known, that list of transgressions would also fill a pew, I am sure. But the Jews say, let's just take a small bite out of that. Not a lifetime, but maybe this week. Or maybe a year. With the magnitude of this human dilemma, is forgiveness reasonable? Is it possible? You know I'm arguing for it, right? Yeah. Robert Enright, the professor of psychology at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, said there are 4 parts to forgiveness. There's uncovering our anger, there's deciding to forgive, there's working on forgiveness, and there's discovering the release from our emotional prisons. Step 1 is uncovering the anger which seeps through all those things on that list. It means dealing head on with the ways we hide from it, with denial, suppression, repression, displacement, regression, identification, feelings of embarrassment or bruised egos, and so on. Anger seeps beneath all the transgressions in that pew filled with names and events in our lives. Uncovering the anger is the first step. Something the church has rarely helped us do. Rose Berger says in the reading, further down in the reading that Beth read, the church has failed most profoundly in teaching us about step 1, uncovering our anger. Actually, she says the church has taught, especially to women, elaborate and sanctified ways to cover, mask, and bury our anger, denying us access to the power of transformation and forgiveness. So let's do something about that today. You have permission here to uncover the anger and the transgressions that happen to you, and consider the anger you have created on the other list. And the second step is deciding to forgive. Forgiveness is, in fact, a choice. Will you or will you not? It's in your power to act on it or to avoid it. Like all choices, some are more difficult than others. And step 3 is then to work on the forgiveness, which we are doing right now. It doesn't come easily to most of us, but it's work, it's toil, it's labor. Why in the Bible do they have so many stories of people toiling in the vineyard? Not only was it an agrarian society, but I think because the Christians were asking of themselves and of their brethren to try to change, to toil in the vineyards of the soul, to dig through the roots. It takes work. And it takes work to get to forgiveness. And it means that we see below the flaws of us all. Now, I don't believe in some kind of divine intervention, but all week on my iTunes shuffle, this song, Flaws, by the band Bastille, kept coming up. Over and over every time I plugged it in the car. All of your flaws and all of my flaws, they lie there hand in hand, ones we've inherited, ones that we learn, they pass from man to man, the band Bastille says. You have always worn your flaws on your sleeve, and I have always buried them deep beneath the ground. Dig them up. Let's finish what we started. Dig them up so nothing is left unturned. The toil, the labor of forgiveness is real. And it starts with a decision. And then the final step. Discovering that in all that work, in seeing it and feeling it and acting on it, we can let go of resentments. And importantly, we can accept the release. Accepting that release may be one of the hardest parts. One of the primary ways to heal from injustices done to us is to take time to go through a process of forgiving those who hurt us. And I know that is difficult. But to cultivate goodness toward that person is stronger than the injustice itself. And we learn how strong we can be when we stand in the current of our self-righteousness and our pain. Last weekend I was not here because I was on a kayak camping trip with my daughter. We were learning how to kayak down the rapids of a river. And importantly, one moment in the weekend, we learned how to cross the river to rescue someone who might have been hurt on the other side. The way we learned that was we formed a tripod of 3 or more people, and the person in front held a paddle, and we slowly went across, supporting each other all the way until we could get to the hurt person. And then the 4 of us would walk back slowly. We can't cross the rivers without the support or the tools. We can't cross the river unless we have attention and intention to save that person on the other side. And I thought as we were doing that, this is such a great metaphor for this week. Because that person on the other side is either someone we may have transgressed against, or it may be ourselves. And we need tools and we need each other, but first and foremost, we need the intention. We need to step into the current. And that was the hardest part. But when we returned back to the shore with the so-called injured person, I can tell you the joy was palpable, even though we had just saved someone who was fully able in body. But we had accomplished it. We had crossed the rushing river, and had we not done it right, we might have floated down the river, and maybe that would have been okay because we would have had to walk back up and try again. That's what forgiveness is like. Deciding to step in, but also knowing how to cross. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it is strength. Forgiveness isn't accepting or excusing another's action. It stands in the truth with a new response to that truth. And forgiveness isn't always reconciling with the other. While it's better if it can also be just an act of the heart, meaningful to you, freeing you of the burden. Those who can act on forgiveness, scientists say, are healthier, more hopeful, less depressed, and unburdened. And those who cannot forgive believe that things do not change. And so our poem for the day by Naomi Shihab Nye. And she asks, what does not change? And she gets those responses. The train tracks. No, the train tracks change. And she asks, what does not change? Just ask anyone. Everything changes. The stars explode. The rose curls up as if there is fire in the petals. The cat who knew me is buried under the bush. I love that. She's saying to us that everything changes and everyone can change. So in forgiving, we can create change in ourselves and in others. And that's important. Annie Lamott, in her wonderful style, says not forgiving is like drinking the rat poison and expecting the rat to die. In the end, it's a question of whether we want estrangement or relationships, whether we want roaring rivers that we cannot cross or ways to pull the injured to safety. Do we want a life where nothing seems to change, or the wisdom of impermanence? Saying yes to life means starting on forgiveness, not once, not twice, but almost every day if possible. And if not, then okay, once a year. If we want to be alive in this way, we practice, even when it feels odd. And if we have no one to speak forgiveness to, then let it be spoken to God, that mystery beyond all that holds us in our despair and in our struggle. So here in church, we give each other the opportunity to practice saying forgiveness with the words that are on the back of your order of service. They are also found in the hymnal at the back on number 637. It is a litany of atonement spoken by us, and I invite you to join in that response, in the singing or the speaking of the response as we read together 637. Will you rise as you are able and join together? Speak. For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. Sing or speak that line with us. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that we have struck out in anger without just cause, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others, we forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone, we forgive ourselves and each other. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit, we forgive ourselves and each other. For losing sight of our unity, we forgive ourselves and each other. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness, we forgive ourselves and each other. So may it be. Amen.